Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Doctors Podcast, where I'm here to educate, inspire, and entertain you. So you guys know that I live in Aruba, and I wanted to showcase some of the beauty of Aruba. So I hope that I'm doing that here. I'm at the Embassy Suites, Aruba. A good friend of mine owns a hotel. So if you guys want to support, it's a Hilton property. Please support the Embassy Suites, Aruba. Today, our subject matter is leasebacks. Now, leasebacks have been around for a long time, even before my time of investing in real estate, and they were actually pretty hot in the mid-2000s when I had my first move into real estate. And all of a sudden, I started hearing about leasebacks again in the last couple months. So I said to myself, why am I hearing about leasebacks? I'm sure a lot of people don't understand leasebacks. Let me tell you some of the great things about leasebacks and the negative things about leasebacks so that you can basically understand what leasebacks are and the tools that leasebacks that can give you as a real estate investor. As a real estate investor, a leaseback can work amazing. So the perfect leaseback for you is like you buy a property for $100,000, it's worth $200,000, and you have a tenant that's paying for 2 years and can buy the property back from you for a predetermined price, let's say $130,000. So you can make a 30% return on your money, and the person that sold the property to you gets to buy the property back, and you never really have any risk because you have such a great loan to value. You bought it for $100 and it's worth $200. That's how it can work for a real estate investor. But let me explain what it is. So a leaseback is basically when the owner of a house needs money and they can't go to the bank and refinance. Maybe they're in a foreclosure. Maybe they have an immediate bill that needs to be paid. I saw one recently where the guy enrolled his child in college and then couldn't pay for it. And it was like 2 weeks away from like, hey, I need to tell Johnny he can't go to college or I need the money. He also was out of a job and he couldn't get the money. So what happens is investors can go, okay, well, Mr. Homeowner, I can solve your problem. You have some equity in your house. Let's say your house is worth $200,000 and you only owe $50,000. We will pay you $100,000 for your house. You will get $50,000 in cash now. It won't be based on your credit. It won't be based on anything related. Like you couldn't get a loan. He couldn't handle the payments anyway. So basically, we're just giving you the money and we will allow you to stay in the house for usually 1 to 2 years and buy back the property. That's at a predetermined price. So if they bought it for $100 from that homeowner, it might be $130, $140, $150. How that works for the homeowner is they get immediate cash that they probably couldn't get. They might have gone into foreclosure. They might have went to a bank and got denied on a loan because they're already behind on payments, or they can't refinance because the payments will be too high for them and a bank won't give them the loan. So it's a way for somebody to get the money that they need immediately. And on the investor side, what's the risk here? You're buying a property for $100,000 and it's worth $200,000. If the homeowner that you let rent from you for 2 years, which you'll make money from that too, if they can't buy the property back, then you can sell it for $200,000. Now that's kind of sucks for the homeowner, but it still solved the issue for the homeowner. The homeowner needed immediate cash. They didn't want to get out of their house and they wanted to have an option to get back into their house. So that is the leaseback that is going on right now. There's several different versions of leasebacks that I have personally experienced over the last 20 years. Now, how a leaseback could work a little bit differently. Let me tell a story about the first time I actually heard about a leaseback. It was probably in 2004 or 2005, and a buddy of mine was buying a property in Naples, Florida, and it was like $1 million, and he needed a down payment of 20%, so he needed like $200,000 for a down payment. He didn't have the down payment. The developer said, you don't need a down payment. We actually have a tenant that wants to rent the property back for 2 years, and the rent is around $200,000. They'll pay you up front. Now you can get into this deal, no money. So he was like, whoa. Basically, he could buy $1 million property, get an 80% loan, and the rent that the tenant was going to pay for 2 years was being paid up front, and he basically got into the deal, no money out of pocket. That being said, he would have to make monthly payments over the next 2 years. And this was a crazy market. I don't advise that you do that for a couple reasons, which I'll get into. But this was a crazy market where, hey, that property you buy for $1 million, or you could get back in the day less than interest-only payments, and it might be worth 1.2 the next year or 1.5 in 2 years. So you just wanted to get the asset at the time. That's how the 2008 recession happened, was deals like this. What we found out was there was actually no tenant. After we closed, the developer, we're like, okay, so do we have to give the tenant the lease? And the developer was like, no, there's no tenant. It's basically how I credited you money to buy the property. So my buddy was like, this is great. So I can actually rent it out again. He got the rent for 2 years and he could rent it out again because there was nobody there. But what we learned, this is a nefarious way of doing a leaseback. You're basically inflating the price of the property, and how you justify it and help somebody get into the property is saying it's already rented or prepaying rent to mitigate their down payment. So it is a creative way that you can basically make a deal get done. But that was the first time that I had ever heard of a leaseback. And over the years, there's several things that you got to pay attention to. So when he was buying that property, let's say that rent was $10,000 a month, you feel pretty confident, like, wow, I'm buying the property for $1 million and I already have somebody that's going to rent it for $10,000 a month and they prepaid. Like, you feel pretty confident to buy the property, right? Turns out that you can't rent it for $10,000. You can only rent it for $5,000. This was just all inflated by the developer. I have seen over the years, many people sell property, guarantee rents, do rent backs. What I want to tell you is please be wary of that. If somebody's going to prepay you rent, or somebody's going to tell you it's already tenanted, or do a lease back, make sure that rent is market rent. They could even have a tenant now that did prepay money at a certain rate, but let's say the rent is $1,500. You want to make sure, and you can do that many ways. Like, you can use rentometer.com, which is like free. You can use all kinds of different tools to figure out what the market rent for that property is. If somebody's telling you, hey, I got this thing and it's rented for $1,500 a month, and you go on rentometer.com and basically find out that the rent for the property is $900, don't get so excited like you have the best deal since sliced bread. No, you're getting hosed here. If that tenant doesn't pay or that tenant moves out, you'll never replace that income at that market, at that $1,500. And you have to analyze the deal at the $900. So those are some negative experiences, but how can leasebacks be insane? And let me just take a second here to apologize, guys. I want to show the beauty of Aruba, but I hear a helicopter flying behind me and they're mowing the lawn downstairs, and there was a falcon here earlier. So part of the beauty of doing this stuff like outside is you got to deal with the elements. But right now, when I'm recording this, everybody got snow where I came from yesterday. So I'll deal with the helicopter and the falcon and the this and the that. Okay, so now, how are leasebacks making a comeback? I think this is a good tagline I just came up with. So leasebacks now are companies that are going and they are giving money to homeowners that are in motivated situations. And think about it. I saw a video when I was looking this up because I haven't heard about leasebacks in years. I just went on YouTube. I wrote leasebacks, right? There was nothing. It was like doctors leasing back offices, all commercial transactions. There was one video that I saw that the Wall Street Journal did about some homeowner that did a leaseback. And I think they were trying to make it like the company that did the leaseback was taking advantage of them. And even the homeowner was like, that was the best deal I could have got. They got to make their money. And, it wasn't a bad situation. But let's talk about how you can use a leaseback and how you can make money doing leasebacks. First off, there are companies out there right now that are going to homeowners. They are in the business of going to homeowners and saying, look, if you can't refinance your house or you're going to lose your house, we will do a leaseback with you. Basically, we will buy your house, give you the cash that you need. You don't need a pre-approval. You don't need to sell the house and wait for it to go on the market. And look, you can do that. So let's say you come to the homeowner, and it's not going to be you. You could start a business of this like these other companies, but most likely you're not going to be the one making the deal with the homeowners because it's a real business. You have to get those leads, call those leads, explain it. They're calling and they're saying, listen, I'll give you $100,000 for that $200,000 house that you have, and you can stay in the house for 2 years and pay us rent, and you have the option to buy it back let's say for $150,000. Well, that homeowner still has an option of, they could say, I don't want to do that at all. I'm just going to sell for $200,000. But maybe they can't get $200,000 because, they haven't fixed the house up. They're behind in payments. They don't want to move. Maybe they want to stay in the house. I want to sell the house. I want to get the money, but I don't want to move. I love this house. I want to stay in this house. So how can I get my money, stay in the house, and have the option of buying it back? That's a lease back. There are companies, which I can help you find, that sell these lease backs to other people. They basically contract these lease backs, and they'll go put Mr. Homeowner's house, maybe even under contract before they close on it, for $100,000. It's worth $200,000. And listen, I'm doing a 50% loan to value. Maybe it's 60%, maybe it's 70%, but I've almost never seen any higher than 70%. So the point is, if you buy this deal, you are walking in with great equity that's covering your butt. If they buy it, in this example, for $100,000 or put it under contract, you can buy it for that $100,000. Of course, you're going to have to pay them a fee for taking that deal, and they might take a fee from the homeowner. That's how these people make money. I'm not in those companies. I don't know that business, how they make money. But what I want to tell you is what's going on and how you can make money with it. I know that you can go to these companies and say, listen, I like this house, and they're all over the country. I like this house in Texas. It's $100,000 to buy it. It's worth $200,000. I think that's great equity. This guy will rent from me for these 2 years for this amount of money, the former seller, and he will buy it back for more money. You can make between 20 and 30% on your money by doing a deal like that. What I should have started this video with is, this is the beauty of a leaseback for you, assuming you're watching The Real Estate Doctor and you're a real estate investor. This is the beauty for you. We all want to make money in real estate. How many of you are flipping property? Talk to me about flipping property. You have to buy a property, fix it up, put it on the market, find a buyer, and sell it. First, you have to identify a property that makes sense. You have to buy it with good enough equity in it. You got to find a contractor, deal with the contractor, get the estimate. Then you got to say, well, I hope I can sell for X, but you can educate yourself to get a good number of that. And you go sell the property with a real estate agent, and you got to hope the market's great that you can sell that. Now, I can tell you that I flip property every month, and it's not a hard process. But for a lot of people, it's intimidating to deal with a contractor, and maybe you can't flip a property. Maybe you're flipping away from home. Maybe you're even close to home. You got to deal with a contractor. You don't know who's going to buy it. You don't know how much. Like, really, when you flip a property, there's no guarantee that somebody's going to buy that house for X dollars. Well, now let's compare flipping a property with a leaseback. A leaseback is flipping a property, because what I didn't tell you is right now about 80% of these homeowners are buying the houses back. You can't go in like a predatory investor and say, listen, I hope they don't buy the house back. To be honest with you, that happens only 20% of the time. So you have to go in and say, listen, I want to collect my rent and get my markup and make my 20 to 30% on my money. Well, if you're going to make 20 to 30%, and I'm talking about annual, because I can tell you, I'm working with companies that are selling these. When I say I'm working with them, I'm aware of them. I have grilled them on the process and looked at a couple of their deals. And the way I test things, and I will tell you, as a real estate investor, you should test things, is I tried a couple. In any event, do you want to flip a house or do you want to do a lease back? What's the pros and cons? Flipping a house, you're going to buy a house and it should have some equity, right? Lease back, you're going to buy a house and it's going to have some equity. Flipping a house, you need to find a contractor and manage the contractor and get an estimate, and you're not going to make money while you do that. You're going to have costs. You're going to have to pay, either you borrowed money, either you have to pay property taxes, and you have to pay the contractor, so you're not going to make money. On a lease back, you don't have to do any work to the house. The homeowner's already living there. And a matter of fact, you're not negative cash flow, you're positive cash flow, because you're getting rent from the homeowner. Now, on the flip, you get done fixing the house up and you want to sell it, right? You have to find a real estate agent and put it on the market. Maybe you got to stage it and hope that somebody comes and buys the house. Over here on a lease back, what do you got to do? You don't have to do anything. You already got your buyer. You already have the predetermined price. You don't have to get a real estate agent. So you can flip properties with leasebacks without fixing a house up, without negative cash flow while you're fixing the property up, and without knowing who you're going to sell the property to. You already know who you're going to sell it to. If they don't buy it, let's say the homeowner is not capable of buying it. Are you kidding me? You're going to make even more money. You bought it at 50% LTV, you can sell it at 100%. So you'll make even more money. So the worst case scenario for you, the investor, in a leaseback like this, the guy doesn't buy the property back, he pays you rent, and at the end of it, you can sell it for whatever market value you want. You can help the guy and let him stay in the property. You could extend. You could say, listen, I'll give you another year, pay me rent, and we'll just up the buyback. You can do a million things. Leasebacks sound complicated. And listen, there's a little bit of knowledge that you need to get, but I want you to think about a leaseback as a new way for you to invest in real estate. I love the fact that I haven't heard about them in years and they're making a comeback. I'm waiting for the year that short sales make a comeback, which, I don't see happening. Listen, I'm in the market every day. And I have so many students right now that are buying properties and borrowing money and listen, the market is hot. You're making offers on investment property or properties that you want to buy for a rental or flip. And the sellers are going, listen, no contingencies, cash, close in 2 weeks. And if you don't like it, I got 5 other people. So it's a hot market. Think about a leaseback as a way for you to flip a property without doing a renovation, without carrying the property, and already knowing who you're going to sell it to. You can make a lot of money doing less work, and the older I get, the more I love to make money with less work. That's where I'm going to end it today. A leaseback is a leaseback, and if you have any questions about a leaseback, you can always reach out to me. Hope you guys enjoyed this short episode with the real estate doctor and what is a leaseback and how to make money with it. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, thank you for watching the Real Estate Doctor podcast. If you get value from this episode, which I know you will, please hit the subscribe button, like it, comment, do your thing.